all the beautiful plums. We've already used part of this box. Alright, y'all might have seen my big old boxes of plums that my friend gifted me. One of the things we're making with them today is plum butter. I have my instant electric pressure cooker all loaded up. I just cut up enough plums to totally fill mine. It is an 8-quart cooker. I believe this is probably like 10 pounds of plums. You could certainly half that and go with 5 pounds. I did 3 cups of sugar to start with. I can add more later if I decide it needs it, but I'm not a huge sugar person. And then I have also added in half a teaspoon each of allspice, cloves, ginger, and anise, or anise. I'm not really sure how you say that word. You can certainly put cinnamon in there if you like. We have a cinnamon allergy in the house, so no cinnamon for us. Once they're cut up and in there with your sugar and everything, I just stirred it up a little bit, made sure it was in. I have it on slow cook, on low, to get it started. I'll probably do that for an hour or so, and then I'll kick it up to high, and I will slow cook on high for about 4 hours or so, and then I'll come back and check it. It's been about 5 hours. They're looking really good and soupy. What I'm going to do now, I have an immersion blender. I am just going to puree them up with the immersion blender until they're the consistency I want them to be. Being very careful not to pull it out of the pot and spray plums everywhere. When I have it all pureed up, I'm just going to leave it on high, open with the lid off for about 4 to 5 hours. I just stir it occasionally, check the consistency. You want it to cook down to a nice thick consistency. You want to kind of mound on a spoon. You can also do it on, instead of the high for 4 to 5, you can probably do it on low for longer. I'm going to do it on high because I'd like to have this done before I go to bed tonight. Alright, this is the consistency I'm going for. I want it pretty smooth. It's still really thin, that's why we got to cook it down. If you do not have an immersion blender, you can certainly take this and puree it in batches in a regular blender and pour it back in. Not a big deal. You're just smoothing it out. Alright, I'm going to let it sit here a few more hours, stirring occasionally. Update on the plum butter. It is really late at night. I am ready to go to bed. This was still not... It's taken forever to cook down, probably because of just the sheer volume I have of that. So what I'm doing for the night, I am just going to put the lid on so I don't have to worry about bugs or children or anything in the morning. And I turned it from high slow cook to low slow cook. And I made sure, since mine's meant for pressure cooking and stuff, that I have my vent open so that it can exhaust any steam it needs to, and it's not just, you know, I want the steam to evaporate and come out of the butter. So we'll check on it in the morning. Alright, it's been about 12 hours since last night. I got up this morning, first thing I did, I uncovered it, kicked it back up to high slow cook, stirred it up. We've dropped a little bit more in volume. You can kind of see the rings on the side there, but I am just going to let this simmer in the background today while I process up some other things. Give it a stir. I've been doing it about every 30 minutes to an hour, just whenever I think about it, just come over here and stir it up. I do not want the butter to scorch on the bottom, so I'm just making sure I keep it moving around throughout the day, and we'll keep an eye on it. It's definitely thickening, but we're not quite at the thickness I want yet, so we're just gonna keep letting it cook. Plum butter is finally done. It has been probably about 48 hours, guys. I've poured some off into a bowl. It reduced by at least about half, and we are finally nice and thick. Good consistency for what I want. I'm pouring some off in a bowl, and I've got a little bit more I'm going to have to, I'm going to put in a jar for the night. It's late. It's like 11, midnight. Everybody's in bed. I'm not starting up the canner tonight, so I'm going to let this cool down. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to put it in my refrigerator, and then in the morning, once everybody's had breakfast and everything, I will dig it out and we will fire it up the canner and get this ready to be canned. See you in the morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm up. It's the next morning. I have my plum butter. I pulled it out of the fridge and I put it in the stock pot, and I'm slowly bringing it back up to heat. You don't want to do it too fast. Make sure you're stirring frequently. You don't want it to scorch. It's very thick at this point. You don't want it to scorch. I have my canner getting ready. It's heating up. I am doing pint jars, so I have it full of pint jars this morning. I have my funnel, my headspace tool, my lids, my rings. I have some vinegar and a cloth to wipe the lids with, and I have my jar lifter. I didn't say it last night. If it was not midnight where you are, when you got your plum butter to the consistency you wanted, you can certainly, can straight from, as long as it's hot. It needs to be hot when you can it. Other than that, you're fine. You didn't have to stick it in the fridge and wait overnight. I had to because I was not staying up all night canning. But when this gets back up to a nice simmer and my jars are ready to go, I'll bring you back. Oh, another trick I've learned, especially I did this on the crock pot, on the slow cooker. I had this is a splatter shield for if you're frying food. I stuck it over the top. It kept out bugs, kept it from splattering anywhere. Worked out wonderfully. Plum butter is nice and hot and bubbling. Canner is ready, so let's get these canned up. And move it over here where I hopefully don't make quite such a mess. Alright, we are just going to ladle into our jars. We have a 1/4 inch headspace. Let's see where I stand. Oh, I still got room. We want a 1/4 inch. And right about there. My rag and my vinegar, and I'm going to wipe down the rim, make sure it's clean. Lid and ring. Then you want to do fingertip tight, just till it spins on the counter. Back into the canner, and pull out the next jar. Curious to see how many jars we end up getting out of those 10 pounds of plums. Oh, add a little bit to that one. Not quite at a 1/4 inch. Alright. Wipe the rim really well. Lid and ring. And into the canner. I'm going to keep filling these jars up. See you back when I've got them full. Okay, we got 6 jars out of that. They are all loaded in the canner. So I'm going to get the lid on. And bring this back up to a boil. Once it is up to a boil, you will process for 10 minutes. If you are between 0 and 1,000 feet above sea level, that's what I'm at, so I'm going to process for 10 minutes for pints. If you are higher than that altitude, you will need to go on and find a canning altitude chart, and there's tons of them. They'll give you a nice little how many minutes you need to add depending on your altitude. So we'll see you back at the end of the 10 minutes. Oh, one other thing, you need to make sure you have 1 inch, at least 1 inch, 1 to 2 inches of water over the top of your jars. Alright, up to a boil for 10 minutes on altitude. Okay, it's been processing for 10 minutes. You can see it's boiling away. I'm going to turn it off, and you're going to let it sit uncovered for 5 minutes. They've sat for 5 minutes with cover off. We're going to lift them out. I lift straight up. And I'm going to come over here and put them where I've prepared a spot that's out of the way where they can sit undisturbed for 12 to 14 hours. Or 12 to 24 hours, excuse me. Depends on temperature of your room, etc., etc. I usually, by 12 hours, mine are usually pretty good. Jam, I tend to let sit longer, but this butter doesn't have to gel or anything, so. Straight up and down, don't tilt them. You don't want anything to get up into that area where it needs to seal. The water will evaporate off the top, or you can dry it up when they're cool. No biggie. These are absolutely beautiful. We've taste tested. It's wonderful. After they've sat and cooled completely, your 12 to 24 hours, you want to take the rings off and check the seals. They should not flex up and down anymore. They should be sunken in and concave and not flex. And if you take the ring off, you should be able to carefully lift the jar up a little bit just by the lid. As long as it doesn't, it should have a good enough hold to be able to do that. So check your seals. As long as your seals are good, label them, and you're ready to store them. If it doesn't seal for some reason, just stick it in the fridge and start using it. Thanks for joining us today. Hope you all enjoyed. Bye!